Здравствуйте, это снова Варп-Маяк, и вы смотрите продолжение интервью с Грэмом Макниллом. Отвага и честь. You like writing and duel with Mr. Abnett about Burning of Prospero, and will there be any other such double projects?
Obviously Dan and I had collaborated a couple of times beforehand with things like the Lightning Tower and the Dark King.
Yeah.
Which was great fun, and we again with Horus Rising and False Gods, we were in contact just every day or every other day, because I wanted to make sure that what I wrote followed on well from what he'd written, that the tone of it felt like it was in the same series, that the characters were walking and talking as the same people from one book to the next. I mean, Dan is a hugely inspiring person to work with, to collaborate with. So we've done this several times already, and it's always produced great results. Certainly for me, and Dan produced great stuff with it. Whether that's any result in the collaboration or not, who knows? But it's always produced great results for both books. So when it came to Prospero, we always knew from an early stage that was going to be 2 books. And yeah, again, we were in contact loads, just trying to, again, so, because my book was coming out before Dan's. Originally it was the other way around, but with Dan's health, it meant that the books had to be swapped around. And that was great for A Thousand Suns, but it also meant that the space wolves that I portrayed in my book had to then bear relation to what Dan did in his. So yeah, we had lots of conversations and, lots of just ideas as much as descriptions, because, Dan threw up loads of balls in the air for me to knock down in False Gods, and I tried to do the same for him with A Thousand Suns, so that there was threads of connectivity between the 2 stories, sometimes willful contradictions, because after all, each story is that legion's propaganda, so to speak. The Thousand Suns is their version of what happened. Prosper Burns is the wolves' story of what happened, and there are elements where they converge, elements where they disagree, and that's as it should be. And it was as a creative process, it was brilliant. I always love working that closely with Dan, and I think it produced two great books.
Yeah, certainly did.
I would say that No Fear and Betrayer are almost, a sort of duology again. I mean, they don't focus on the same battle, but they're certainly in the same battleground, so to speak. I'd be very surprised if we don't see more of that, especially when we get to the end. I'd be there will be massive, collaboration, massive, 3 or 4 authors working on the one, all of us, in fact, working on the, when it comes to the Siege of the Emperor's Palace, will be, God knows how we're actually going to do it, but we'll be collaborating on that one massively, so yes.
Yeah, like the way I see it, the way I predict it, is that the Siege of the Emperor's Palace, well, knowing Games Workshop, it probably is going to be like 5 or 7 or 8 books, It's all about the same. Well, actually, it was such a titanic battle, it would take several.
Given that we're deliberately building in aspects of characters and plot that we want to feed forward into what we can then do at the Emperor's Palace, because the more characters, the more threads we have ready to tug and pull and weave together, the better the final stories are going to be, because there's going to be lots of elements in the current books where you may be thinking there'll be some guy will sort of walk on and wave a bit of paper and say something, then walk off, and you'd be like, the hell was all that about? Then 10 books down the line, or 50 books down the line, or 100, or whatever it is, when we get to the Siege of the Emperor's Palace, you'll read something and go, holy crap, that's what that guy was doing back then.
Yeah.
We want lots of little bits that when you get to the end, the first thing you're going to want to do is go right back to the beginning and read it again, and then pick up on those little bits that we've put in to go, all right, that's the thing that comes up here. So there's no wasted bits in it.
Yeah, Interesting. So you wrote about the Emperor's Children and the Ultramarines both. So would you like to write The Last Reckoning between Fulgrim and Guilliman?
I think if I don't, there will be blood spilled.
Definitely, yes. I will personally spill that blood as well.
Raise me an army.
Yeah. So, would you be doing that?
I mean, that's years away.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't happen until after the heresy.
Yeah.
And I suspect it would be very unlikely that we will do anything immediately post heresy until we finish the heresy. But yeah, that's one that I would, push people aside, grannies into the streets, and do all sorts of terrible things to get to that story. Yeah,
you would get to kill another Primarch. Guilliman, he's not dead, is he? Please tell me he's not dead.
Oh, was it that is not dead which can eternal lie?
Yeah.
Technically, no, he's not dead. He's in a stasis field. His throat cut by a poisoned blade. Which is generally a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, technically, no, he's not dead. But, who's going to risk flicking the off switch in that stasis field and rush in with a bandage around his neck? It's just not likely anytime soon. But yeah, no. Again, maybe he's healing. I mean, is it possible to heal within a stasis field?
Yeah, well, time doesn't move at all within stasis, so... Well,
but really knows that for sure.
Yeah. So okay, and then we got 7 more questions from a non-category. They're very different, and I thought they were some of the funniest questions and some of the regular questions. Okay, the first is Russian community of Warhammer. They like to rant about 2 things in your books, especially the Ultramarines. They like to rant about the demonic train.
Yeah.
It's that, actually Ventress in a demonic train is a running joke, and I gotta fight off all these kids when I bring my Ultramarine somewhere, and they're like, oh hey, here comes the demon train, it's like fuck you guys. So what do you really think about the demon train?
It served the purpose, frankly. It was a means of getting Uriel from Ultramar to the Eye of Terror very quickly. And there's within what people already know of the 40k universe, there is always room for invention of new weird stuff that lurks in the background. The spaces between the warp and reality. Who knows what's lurking in there, and that's there's all sorts of things you can invent. I mean, to be honest, the idea from that came. I had a dream about this train thing. I dreamt I was on a railway platform and this thing pulled into the station, and it exuded all these blood tentacles that started eating everybody on the station. And I woke up, and some people might be wake up in sweat, sort of screaming, but I woke up and immediately reached for my notepad and think, that's cool, that's great, write that down. And it was my clock radio had woken me up, and the alarm had gone off, and it was a radio station, and they were talking about a music awards ceremony that was happening in London that night called the Soul Train Awards.
Yeah.
And I thought,
yes,
that thing, there we go, that's just too perfect not to use somewhere.
This is it.
So, it's not maybe what everybody would expect to happen. It's maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but it was chaos, and chaos is capable of doing almost anything. That's by its very nature. Anything can and does happen. So yeah, I mean, it did what it needed to do. I mean, I doubt very much we'll be seeing it again, but yeah, it was fun to write, and the Slaughterman character was great fun to write as well. Yeah. So.
Don't get me wrong, I like the demon train.
Yeah, right.
It's fun.
I don't take any of this personally. It's, what you write is what I think is right at the time, and some people like it, some people don't like it so much, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. And then the second thing, I might be wrong, but pretty sure I'm not, about the things and chunks the size of a tank flying everywhere. you seem to be using that sometime, no? In your books, like when you're describing something, like something the size of a tank, just...
Oh, right, yeah. Entirely possible. I mean, you write that many books, and
yeah,
it's entirely possible you've forgotten that you've used that before. And, you know, a tank is a good size thing to reference.
It is.
What else is about the size of a tank that you can have flying around the place?
Yeah, you can't really say the size of a boat or the size of I don't know.
A lot of the things, I mean, you crouch things from the character's point. Everything that you're telling the story is from a character's point of view. You're seeing it through their eyes.
Yes.
So the imagery or the things about that size that we might use aren't appropriate in 40k, because that's, you know, it's how a 40k character would interpret things. So, but then again, you know what? I'm guilty of many sins when it comes to writing that I try and stop doing, or, you know, overuse of a particular word or a phrase or repetition of a word in a sentence, and it's, you know, you see them when you see them, and you forget you used it, and you use it again, and you try and keep an eye out for them, but sometimes, you know, they'll slip through the net. Yeah. Because I work on one book at a time, and if I've used a particular phrase a lot in a previous book, I've probably forgotten about it.
So do you
I recognize my feelings and will be sure to correct them.
Just like from the burning of Prospero. That was the quote, yeah. So, do you read any Russian literature?
I've read bits and pieces. I mean, I read the Brothers Karamazov. What was the other one? The Fire and Sword, the Cossack Rebellion. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, I haven't read a lot. No. I mean, any recommendations?
Well, Crime and Punishment is one of my favorites. I like it.
Okay.
Apart from that, I'm not such a big fan of Russian literature myself. No.
The Night Watch and Day Watch.
No, not my kind of thing. Tried it, didn't like it, moved on. So, but Crime and Punishment is a really cool book. So you wrote so many different books and so many different series. If you could, I know maybe I'm, you know, overusing the same question again and again, but if you had to single out one book that you think is your best achievement, what would that be?
Oh dear, that's always such a son of a bitch of a question, because the traditional answer is always the one I'm working on just now.
Yeah.
Because that's the one where all your attention and all your ideas are bubbling around at the surface, and you're passionate about it and can't wait to get into the next bit of it. It's weird. I mean, I think of all the books that I've written, the one that I think I achieved everything that I set out to achieve when I started it. You know, when I sat there and thought, I want to do this, and have achieved that.
Can I try and guess? Guess? The chapters do?
No.
Well.
I'm very proud of that book, and it was a fun book to write. But the one that I think I achieved everything I wanted to achieve was 1,000 Suns, and it's got a. You know, again, when you're writing a book, it's not just about the book and the story. It's where you are at the time. It's what you're and the place you're at as a person as well. Because midway through that book, my son was born. So that's got a real special resonance for me. So I was halfway through the book, and then Evan was born. So the rest, you know, I can see it, certainly. I see a difference in the two halves of the book from the point where I was writing, you know, all the day, every day, to the points where from there on in, I was getting no sleep and helping look after a small child and mother, what have you. To me, I can see the difference where this is where you start to lose sleep from here on in. But yeah, Nightbringer's always got a real special place for me, because that was my first novel.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I look back at it and there's bits of it that make me cringe in terms of, I could have written that so much better, that scene's too long, that scene's too short, that dialogue doesn't work, or this scene's in the wrong place. And, you know, to borrow to paraphrase and borrow a quote from David Gemmell when he was talking about his first novel, Legend, that, you know, as he grew and developed as a writer, you know, he's like, yeah, you know, if I went back and worked on Legend again, I could make it technically a better book, but I don't think I would ever improve the heart of it. And I feel very similarly to that for Nightbringer. There's technically an aspect I think I could have done a lot better, but the heart of it, I think, is just right for that moment in time when I wrote it and when it came out. So, yeah, I mean, I could talk about any single one of my books, and then I would think, actually, no, wait a minute, no, that's my favourite. I love this bit, and wait a minute, no, that book's a bit where I think it's really great where this, yeah. But yeah, off the top of my head, and I have thought about that because a few people have asked me that one. I think A Thousand Suns, I think, is my most complete and complex book, and works on all the levels I wanted to work on.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like, it's one of those books that I'm trying to give my girlfriend to read. It's like, read this is awesome, read this, you gotta try this, you know. It's like, she's like, no,
you know, slowly.
Yeah, like Horus Heresy is just, she read Horus Rising and False Gods, that's it, and that was too much. It's like too she said it was too grandiose, like too epic. It's like, you know, and if you had to pick someone else's book, any book,
what, Heresy one or just anyone?
Anyone, any Black Library book.
Okay, well, one of the ones that I love, because it's got, again, such a grand scale of spectacle to it, was Malleus, the second of the Eisenhorn trilogy. Just for the triumphal scene, because I thought that was just phenomenal. Just a great piece of writing, action-packed, characterful, scary, inventive. Yeah, Malleus is still one of my favorites.
So, what things inspire you to write?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one place you go to for inspiration. You know, I mean, the desire to write has been with me since I've been about 5 or 6 years old, and everything that inspires me to pick up a pen or hit the keyboard is, you know, everything I read, everything I watch, every conversation I have. You know, it's all grist to the mill. It's all, you know, as we say, idea fuel. Because, you know, you have to, you know, if your mind is the engine that pumps out stories, you know, like any engine, it needs fuel, and that fuel comes in all the things that you take in. You know, I try and read widely, and I try and read a lot. I read, you know, crime fiction, horror fiction, biographies, popular science, psychology, you know, anything. You know, it's a rare day I don't have about 2 or 3 books on the go. E-books or paper books or newspaper articles, magazine articles. You know, then they're often a good. I mean, I was talking to. Well, I met briefly John Wagner, Judge Dredd's creator at the SFX Weekender last year, and he was saying how he and the Carlos Esquerra, back in the day, they would go through the newspapers and find little clippings of stories that were a bit strange. Think, oh, that'd be a great, if he turned that in his head a little bit or added some lawgivers, that'd be a great Dredd story. And just, you know, just keeping your eyes, ears open for anything that strikes you as, oh, that's quite cool. So yeah, I can't give you a glib answer.
So it's everything.
It's everything. It's reading and reading and reading and just filling your head with all sorts of stimulus from books, magazines, films, conversations, art, imagery, anything. You know, just feed it and feed it and feed it, and what you're taking in will, you know, bang about inside your head and come up with all sorts of connotations and links. And, oh, what about that thing, that picture I saw over there with that storyline, or that kind of character with this kind of setting? That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Where would that fit?
Yeah.
What would you do with that? It's not about how to turn it on. It's turning it off is the difficult part, because, you know, I always say as a writer, you're always on. you're always taking in things to work on and chew over, and you're always spitting ideas out. You know, that's why I carry, you know, but 4 or 5 notebooks on me just for these random ideas that pop out, which, you know, some of them actually, once they've lain for a bit and developed, might think, actually, no, that's a bit rubbish, scrub that. Others might be the right idea, but just not the right time. So, you know, you hang on to everything, you know. I'm a, you know, to borrow a phrase, I'm an inveterate note taker. So, because I have lost more good ideas than I care to think about just by not writing it down, or because, you know, and again, you don't have to even do anything with it at the time, but as long as it's there, you can go back to it and go look at it and think, yeah, okay, no, that's not a really good idea at all, or, you know what, that's great, and I've got a story coming up with that would be perfect for it. So I'm the mechanicus. I never delete anything.
In Black Library, are you normally like given a task like, here, we want you to write about this, or you can just come up with a story yourself and just go to the Black Library and say, hey, I want to write about this? How does it work?
Definitely the latter. No, I don't think I've ever been approached in the sense of, we want you to do a story about X. It's very definitely, I've come to Black Library, or, you know, we've in discussion come to a point where we think, you know what, it'd be great to do a story about here, or, you know, maybe, you know, earlier in my writing career in Black Library, we would think, okay, there's maybe this, the Wood Elf, like, say, for example, when I was working in the studio, Anthony Reynolds and Paul Jaycock were doing a lot of work on the Wood Elves. Paul was doing some amazing concept art, and Anne was writing up some really great background, new background, developed background for the Wood Elves. You know, and I had nothing to do with that project, but I was watching this and seeing this and thinking, this is just cool, this is great, this is really taking the Wood Elves somewhere they should be from the, you know, the tree-hugging hippies they used to be. So I went to Black Library and said, I'd love to do a novel about these guys, with the Codex Company, the Army book coming out, and, you know, that's worked in reverse too. You know, we've chatted, you know, we said, oh, it'd be great to do a Chaos Space Marine story, and we thought, oh, okay, well, you know, this book's coming out, so yeah, maybe we could do something with that. So it's neither one nor the other. You know, it's a collaborative effort again. You know, we'll come to the kinds of stories that, you know, the Black Library editors, they know the kind of stories I like to tell, and I know what I like to write, and we work together to make sure that, you know, everybody's happy, because they know what I like to tell, they know what sells, and, you know, between us we try to know what people want to see. I mean, that's why I love going to conventions or book signings or events, because it's a great chance to actually talk to the people who've actually read your book. You know, you can browse internet forums till you're blue in the face, but all you'll do is get madder and madder and madder. So actually talking to people out in the real world is great, because you get a real feel for what people are liking, what they're not liking, what they want to see more of, less of, the kind, you know, you get, it's great, you know, essentially touch base with the fans and see what they're liking and what sort of things they want to see.
So, do you have any plans to go out and meet your Russian fans and readers?
I would absolutely love to. I would love to. I mean, I was speaking to, it was many years ago, I forget the name of the publisher, but they had a couple of their guys were over in Nottingham talking to Black Library, and I was chatting to them briefly. I was in the office to meet up with Nick about something else, and so the guys in sales and marketing said, look, you know, the Russian publishers are here, can, you know, and say hi to them. So yeah, I chatted to them for a bit, and they were, oh, I should come over and see you sometime, and I was like, well, you know, I would absolutely love to. I mean, Russia is a country I've never visited. My mum and dad have been over there a few times, but I would kill to go over to Russia sometime soon.
Yeah, I do. 2 more questions left.
Go for it.
Will you ever write about the Necrons, and what do you think about their fluff transition from mindless killers into, well, almost sentient beings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly my next Ultramarines trilogy will feature the Necrons fairly heavily.
Yes.
I suspect. I understand why the transition has been made for the Necrons. Certainly having myself, Andy and Phil, when we did not the original, but the first Necron proper book codex, we were very much on the lines of that they were that sort of the race that you couldn't negotiate with. They were just this implacable race of machine killers from the dawn of time, and that was it. You know, they were a plague, almost a machine plague kind of thing. You know, servants of the elder, you know, the dark gods, you know, the ancient Catan sort of thing. Personally, I would prefer my Necrons to be, you know, the silent killers that they used to be. But you know, I've read the new codex and I love what Matt's done with it. I love playing with them like that. I suspect that when I come to write Necron stuff, that I will basically have my cake and eat it. I will get to play with all the new shiny toys, use all the new cool, you know, nightmare arcs and bloody blah, all the toys, all the big shiny new weapons and stuff. But I doubt we'll see much in the way of, you know, Necrons coming to the tea party to negotiate or go, I shall destroy you all. I doubt see that because it's not my thing. I mean, you know, it's each to their own, but that particularly isn't my thing.
Yeah, I kind of like the depiction of the Necrons in the Fall of Damnus, because it's like it's really good. Let's just say, bridge between the old fluff and the new fluff. They're like, they're sentient, but not really quite sentient, and they're evil, but they're not really quite evil, and they're talking, they're not really quite talking and stuff. You know, you've probably read the Fall of Damnus.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? It's a great book. I highly recommend it.
Спасибо, что вы смотрели Warp-Mayak. Сегодня мы общались с Грэмом Макниллом.